Welcome everyone to the Proven Knowledge Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Church. I'm a music producer from Northeast Ohio. I began this weekly interview series to give you different perspectives from artists, producers, engineers, and other individuals in the music industry. In each episode, we touch on not only what has helped the person succeed, but we also touch on what has shaped them into the person that they are today. I hope you're able to gain some real proven knowledge from the show, and that it helps elevate you on your own journey to success as well. Let's get into it. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 208 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. Today I welcomed back Detroit native, currently residing in Chicago, artist, instrumentalist, Jae Maurice. It's been a couple years since our first discussion. If you remember from the first episode, I originally connected with Jae after he did the live cover of my song with Jay Foster called Talk to Me. He was playing keys in that video, and that's how I initially got connected with him, found out he was an artist. And I loved our first discussion, so it was great to get him back for a catch-up this week. He talked about, what he's been learning the last couple years, especially being an artist, having to overcome self-doubt and limiting beliefs, which I think is something that we all go through from time to time. We had a deep dive on his brand new project, the EP called Survivor's Guilt. He talked about the collaborators he met online who helped him out with the project. I really enjoyed this one. You're going to have to check out the project after this, because I think just the concept of the EP and really just the way it's conceptualized and sequenced, I think is a huge, huge thing. Really enjoyed the music, and just hearing him describe it was awesome as well. And then we talked about, what it is like to be able to have that self-belief and to be able to grow into yourself as an artist and keep reinventing yourself, which I think is something that Jae has continued to do, really in every aspect of his life, not just music. It sounds like he is just going to keep doing that moving forward, and I'm definitely excited to see where he goes from here. So without further ado, let's get into this one. So welcome everyone to episode 208 here on the Proven Knowledge Podcast. Today we have another returning guest. I don't even remember. It was probably 2021 or 2022, somewhere in there was the last time you were on. I didn't look at the episode number specifically, but I know it's been at least a couple years. Detroit native, great artist, just dropped an EP called Survivor's Guilt in March. Happy to have you back on, man. Jae Maurice, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. And like I said, thanks for coming back on. And for those that might not have heard that first episode and our first interview, just give like a brief reintroduction, who you are, how you got into music, all that good stuff.
Okay, yeah. So like you said, originally from Detroit. My introduction to music was when I began playing piano. I don't remember the exact age, but probably somewhere between like 9 and 11. Started off classical piano, but didn't really take to that too much. So moved on to playing for my church, and that's how I kind of got into more gospel and genres of music that are less restricting, because classical music, at least when you're first learning it, is very specific. Mm-hmm. It's all about technique. Then that kind of ventured into jazz and kind of neo soul, and then eventually led to hip hop and R&B. As far as an artist rather than a musician, I've kind of been playing around with, rapping and writing since probably around the same time, around 9 to 11. I would say I kind of started taking it serious or relatively serious probably around high school. That's when I really started releasing things and trying to figure out how to push my name out there and things like that.
Yeah. And I remember because I originally discovered you through the collaboration with Jay Foster, because you did the live version of the song I produced called Talk to Me. So I knew you played keys, and I remember I found out you were an artist. I was like, he does everything. Like, he wears like almost every hat in a sense. So I've always respected that about you, man, that you have, that much skill in what you do. And I know this year you've been doing a lot more as an artist, and I do want to get to that in a second. But first, I want to ask, what do you think has been the biggest change you've overcome, or change you've gone through in general over the past couple years since we last talked? It might not even be music; it could be life in general. Like, what do you think has been a big leap you've had to get through?
Um, that's a great question. I would probably say, I think I had to, or I didn't have to, but I think one of the major things I did was let go of some of the boundaries I was putting on myself. And it was boundaries, creative boundaries that I was putting on myself that I didn't even realize I was putting on myself. And I think also with getting older, especially in this music thing where you don't really have any mentors or anything like that. So everything you do is just you trying something out and hoping people like it. And it can be kind of nerve wracking. So I think, but as you get older, you kind of just develop it's either confidence or nonchalance, because you're just like, I'm grown now. Like, what do I have to lose? Yeah. And I think that allowed me to take away some of the boundaries around things I want to do creatively. And I got to explore some of those on the new EP that I probably wouldn't have done several years ago. Just ideas I always had in my head, but I always had a reason why I shouldn't do it. And I kind of was like, that's so dumb. Why? And then, yeah. So I just started doing whatever I almost cussed, but I just started doing what I wanted to do.
Yeah. You could have said it too. It's all good. We know what you meant. We know what you meant. But yeah, I totally see that as well, as far, because I think everybody deals with that from time to time as well. It's almost like limiting beliefs that you have in your mind of like, well, I could do this, but what if it doesn't work out? And you're already thinking of like the worst case scenario instead of just being like, well, let me just try it, because you don't know if you don't try. And I agree with you on that. I think when you're a new artist or when you're just starting out, it's a lot more difficult to get over that, because you're kind of charting through the unknown. You know what I mean? So you really don't know what's going to happen. You don't even know if you're going to be able to do music like consistently for a while. So I feel like everybody goes through that, especially at the beginning. And then when you get over that and you released a few songs, you released a few projects, each one I think gets easier. And so by the time you're like 10 years in or 15 years in, you're like, yeah, I've been doing this so long, it just feels normal. And you just keep reinventing yourself too. So I think for you, that's kind of what it sounds like as well, is that you're just kind of still reinventing yourself, and you're not afraid to keep pushing your own boundaries as well, which I think is super cool. So that definitely leads into talking about Survivor's Guilt, which is the new EP. 7 songs, I believe, total. So a nice length. I think it was like 20 minutes total.
Yeah, it was 5 songs.
5 songs.
It kind of sounds like it's more because of the way it's sequence.
Yeah. I felt that honestly listening too. I was like, you almost couldn't tell that I wasn't sitting down ready to listen to a full album, because of the way, even the intro, the way it begins. I'm like, it feels like I'm going on a journey. So like, tell me about it. Tell me about the process, the story behind it. Like, what went into it, and why did you decide to put it out now?
I'll answer the last question first.
Okay.
I'm always thinking of ideas. I'm always trying to come up with concepts. When I decide to release, it's really just about whenever I have a concept that's close to being done, and I can flesh it out into writing it and then recording it, and et cetera, et cetera. I would say for this particular project, because I knew it had been a couple years since I released something, I wanted the next thing I release to be something that would be, I guess, like you say, kind of a sign of me reinventing myself, and also a sign that I wasn't just wasting those 2 years just doing nothing. Like, I wanted the growth or the whatever you would call it, I want it to be kind of more apparent. And the maturity, and not only in the writing, but also in the production choices and sequencing, even in the mixing, and not being afraid to actually put some money behind it, and going to places and having people help you and being willing to pay them, even though it's pretty expensive sometimes. But just being willing to do all of that if you get a better sound. Okay, so the next question was the concept. I'm a very systematic person, so that's how I have to process it. The concept, survival's guilt, I don't remember what sparked it. I want to say it was a movie, but I couldn't tell you what the movie was. But it sparked this idea or this feeling I've always had, because out of the surroundings that I grew up in, I was, I guess, one of the fortunate ones that was able to kind of move away and do things away from that environment. And literally by definition, you feel survivor's guilt because you feel like you've left everybody behind. There's also some other meanings, but I don't want to give away too much. But that kind of started the concept. And that's kind of what started me writing from there. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that, man. And I'd say right now my favorite song is probably When the Rain Falls. That's probably my favorite one currently. I'm going to have to sit with it a little more.
Work into that one.
Yeah, the vibe on that one I really love. And I love just the diversity on each song too, because it feels like it really does take you on that journey. Like you covered so much within the 5 songs. So I love it, man. And, let us know who you worked with on this project, because you have some features. I assume you worked with some other producers as well. So, let us know who you had helping out on this one.
Yeah. So normally I don't really do features like that, mostly because they cost. But yeah. I was like, let me push myself. So we got Chantel Soleil. I guess I can give you a little bit about the background. So the features, with the exception of Wayne. So Wayne is a friend from Detroit. So I just hit him up and asked him if he could do the verse. As far as the singing, the singers, these are individuals that I found on Fiverr. And weirdly enough, through the process of making a song, I was actually able to kind of be friends with them in a way. And so it just started off as a work for hire, if you will. And then we kind of were able to kind of connect outside of that and become friendly. But yeah, so you got Chantel Soleil, great singer. Literally, I just typed in, female singer, because I kind of already knew what I wanted it to sound like, and I had already written the lyrics. I just needed a voice. And then we got Nathan Blur, who I think, did I find him on Spotify first? No, I found him on Fiverr, and then a great singer out of South Africa. And we connected, and he did the chorus on Wake. And, that's probably my second favorite song on them, largely because of the chorus he did. And I just really love the way that they transformed the lyrics I wrote and a little bit of like a voice note I sent with me trying to sing it. And they just transformed it. And I was like, this is like the professional sound that I've been chasing for so many years.
Yeah.
So shout out to them. Also shout out to Wayne for doing that verse. And as far as production, just BeatStars. So I honestly, I don't know any of these individuals personally. But I look at their beats constantly. I got about maybe 5 to 6 producers that I just constantly see if they uploaded something new. And so I was able to kind of put something together.
Yeah.
With them.
Yeah. Hey there, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I just wanted to take a quick minute out to let you know about a couple different ways that you can support the podcast. One of the ways is by clicking that support the podcast button within your streaming platform. That is if you want to be a monthly supporter of the show. You can contribute either 99 cents, $5, or $10 a month So that's the first way, and that's the more traditional way that we've had now for the last couple years. The other method that we actually just recently introduced is from our good friends over at Ko-fi. Ko-fi is a virtual tip jar. We have set our limit to a minimum of $10, but you can go make one-time, one-off donations. So if you visit coffee.com/the Proven Knowledge Podcast, you'll be able to donate. And all these different forms of donation go towards getting new guests every single week, getting potential sponsors on board to do giveaways, and overall just making the show better for you guys. So if you want to do that Ko-fi link, it's ko-fi.com/the Proven Knowledge Podcast. Otherwise, again, look for that support the podcast button in your streaming platform if you'd like to be a monthly supporter. And I just want to say thank you guys for your contributions. And without further ado, let's get back into the episode. I like what you said about, finding people for just the work for hire, and then it kind of went into being more than that, because I think a lot of the times, even when you get work for hires or, you're looking for people, there might be like a disconnect there, because it's mostly just like a transaction and then it's over. It's like, it's good when you find people that actually put the time and effort into your vision as well. And I could tell like they saw your vision and they still wanted to execute that, even though it was like, yeah, it's a work for hire, but you could tell they care about what they're working on. You know what I mean? Regardless of it. And hopefully you can stay in touch with those guys and keep working, because that would be super awesome as well. So,
yeah.
But
I definitely plan to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you did I think you did at least one visual for this project.
Yep.
So how did that go? Like, where did you shoot the video? Who helped with that? And, tell us more about that process.
Yeah. So I got with my guy Erickson. He also did the video. I don't know if you remember, back in 2021. He did the video for Black Caster. I think I released that prior to our interview. And he also did the video. What is the name of that song? It's a song I did with my friend here in Chicago, Dolo. I'm singing the song in my head to try to remember the name, but I can't do it right now. Yeah. But yeah, he did. That's how I was introduced to him, through Dolo. And I just hit him up and was like, hey, I got an idea. And I found this place here in Chicago. It's a couple of them, but they have these rooms that are kind of more so designed for photo shoots. So it already has different things in it to kind of make kind of cool photo shoots. And I was like, well, instead of a photo shoot, let's shoot a video in here. And it had some cool lights, and that's kind of where we shot the video there.
Yeah. I'm going to have to check out the full thing, because I saw it on your Instagram, but I haven't got the chance to sit down and watch the full video yet. So I'm definitely going to have to tap in for sure. But that's definitely cool, man. And do you have any like live performances scheduled, or anything you want to do to kind of showcase the new songs? Anything in mind, like in the city or even beyond?
Yeah, I don't have anything scheduled at the moment. But I do plan to kind of start integrating into the open mic circuit here. Trying to see what that's about. Mm-hmm. I know one of the reasons that kind of prevented me, going back to the limitations, one of the reasons that's prevented me from doing that before is because I was stuck in that place where I would make a song, and I'm sure you feel the same way with your beats, and then maybe you'll release it, and then 3 weeks later you don't like it. And you feel like, and all you hear is all the ways you probably could have improved it, and you kind of wish you never released it again, because you want to wish that you could fix the mistakes, but it's out there now, so you just gotta let it be. Yeah. So I would say this EP is definitely the first time I released some music, and even a month or so later, I'm like, I still like it the same way I liked it before I put it out. Yeah. So I think it'll allow me to have a new type of confidence when going to those open mics and, trying to get shows at venues and things like that.
Yeah. And that's another thing I feel like everybody from time to time has to get through, you know what I mean? Or at least they've experienced it, where it's like, even when you're ready to put it out, it's like, oh, I feel good. And then a few weeks later, you're like, oh, I didn't notice that, but I would have done that differently.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly. Yeah,
So
you
yeah,
don't notice it until it's out there. It's like,
exactly.
why didn't I notice that before?
Yeah, and it's crazy because I think even in that, like the casual listener would never notice half the things that we notice. Like I've noticed that
Right.
too. It's like if you would explain that to like a person just hearing it for the first time, they'd be like, "What are you talking about? This is amazing," or like, you know what I mean? So it's like
Yeah, yeah.
we're very like critical of ourselves, and it can be good, but it also can be like what you're describing, which is kind of like a trapped feeling because you're like, well, if it's not up to the standard of what I envision, then I don't feel good about it. And then you can kind of get lost in that too. But I think that even goes back to what we talked about earlier, which is the growth, as an artist. It's like you get more confident at every step, and then it just becomes a little easier. And I'm glad to hear that the project now feels good to you still. And it's been, yeah, what, over a month at this point, or about a month
Yeah.
that it's
Yeah.
been out there. So that's super cool, man. And I know the summertime's coming up, so I assume there's going to be a lot of stuff in the city that's going to be going
Yeah.
on, a lot of opportunities. So that's definitely super exciting. And even outside of music, art, creativity, what else have you been doing recently to, reset, recharge, maybe on a daily basis, weekly basis, like anything else you've done to kind of keep, the batteries recharged and stay fresh?
Um, Overall, I've been really focusing on, outside of music, I've really just been focusing on increasing my quality of life. Um, One of the major things is, like, alongside pursuing music, I also have like a career path that I've been kind of pursuing. So shortly, it's either around the time we last connected, I had transferred from a career in customer service to a career in sales because it's more profitable.
Hmm.
And I did that for a while, and now I'm in a different position, but um, I was able to kind of get a different job that's better than the job I had before. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So so now that I'm at somewhat of a better job, just overall improving my quality of life. I just bought a new car. Um, just I'm getting more into health, trying to get back in the gym. I've been eating a lot better to have more energy. It's very boring, like adult stuff,
Hmm.
but it's very important.
Yeah.
But it's not very entertaining conversationally. But that's really what I've mostly been focusing on, just improving my quality of life, taking care of my body and my mind, sleeping more. Um, and I've been listening to a lot of beats, so I think I'm gonna probably uh, get back in the studio soon.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You just keep elevating, man. I do love that a lot. And really paying attention to health and well-being is so important, because I think at each, like the older we get, it becomes more important to take care of yourself today. And you'll look back like 10 years from now and be like, oh, I'm glad I did that 10 years ago. Got a head start on that stuff. So it can be boring, but it's like, yeah, it is important too. And
yeah.
I'm glad to hear that things are going pretty good. So that's great to hear. And is there anything else that you want people to know about? Maybe something else you have planned for coming up, or you just want people to check out the EP? Like, what should people be looking for?
People should definitely check out the EP. I also have a website, jmaurice.com, where you can find it, and it'll link you to all of the streaming services of your choice. Um, you can also find the video on there and anything that I put on YouTube. I've been really pushing myself to get more into online marketing as far as videos, short form content, things like
Hmm.
that. So if you follow me on Instagram at jmaurice313, you'll see more of that, and it kind of shows a little bit more of my personality on a day to day basis. Because the music can be very serious, but in real life, I'm not that serious actually. Um, it's weird. I'm able to channel all of the more serious and heavy things that we
Hmm.
all go through, and then that goes into the music. So the music it's somewhat sad or melancholy, but in real life, I'm cracking jokes all day, every day.
Yeah.
So yeah, you see a little bit more of that. I'm really struggling, but I feel like I should create a TikTok and get it on there, but I'm really struggling with it because the old school artist in me is like, that's too much.
Yeah.
That's like with prostituting yourself out for some views. But I'm really trying to get over that because I don't have to make it be that. I don't have to embarrass myself or do anything that's unnatural to me.
Yeah.
And I can just use it as a platform to display my music and my talents.
Yeah.
But I'm still fighting with that internally.
Yeah.
But eventually I'll probably make one. So
yeah, we'll have to.
Me on there.
I'd say at this point you might as well wait until the end of the year to see if it actually is going to stay around. But because right now it's kind of on the burner, so I don't know. But yeah, I definitely feel that. I've had that discussion on other episodes about just like every because there's always new platforms popping up too, and I'm sure like if TikTok goes away, something else is going to take its place, and then that'll be the big thing blowing up. So it's like I agree, you got to use the platforms, the way that you want and intend to, and be genuine. Just be your genuine self, and it'll resonate with the right people. And I think that goes to what you just said about, you put all those emotions in your music. It's like that's a pretty good thing to do because that's where it resonates with more people. You know what I mean? It's a good use of that energy, I think, too. So nothing wrong with that, man. And I'm kind of the same way. I feel like I do a lot in the music, and then I'm like just joke, and they're like, "You just made this." I'm like, "Nah, it's it's art, but it is what it is." So, yeah. And do you have any final words of wisdom for the listeners today?
Words of wisdom? Okay. Internally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer the question, what would I say to my younger self? And maybe that way I can give you the listeners some wisdom. If you are an artist up and coming, or if you are already in your journey, you might be further along than me, but you happen to be listening to this. I would say the most important lesson I learned was you got to channel a little bit of Kanye, in that if you heard the story about when he was trying to transition from being a producer to being a rapper, and the people at Rockefeller or Def Jam wasn't interested because they only knew him as a producer at the time. And I guess there's a story that he was in the room with the label heads and he like jumped on the table and to like make everybody listen to him. And there's also, if you watch the Kanye doc back when that was popular, when you hear about all of the different things he did to get people on his songs and the non-conventional ways that he did it. And I say all that to say, don't be afraid to go however far your creativity takes you. And that's what I'm learning, because especially as a musician, when I hear production in my head or when I'm hearing songs that I want to create, it's a little bit more complex because I do have a music theory background, and I'm thinking of like arrangements and stuff like that. But then I begin to think about the practicality of it, especially in hip hop, which doesn't typically have all of that extra stuff. And then then I immediately start putting limits on myself. Like, you can't do that. That's not, or you can't afford that, or where you gonna find that? And what, if you can channel a little bit of Kanye and just be like, fuck all that. I'm gonna do it how I hear it in my head. I'm gonna make it a reality, and then I'm gonna make these people listen to me. They ain't gotta like it, but they gonna at least listen. So that's what I'm learning, to channel your inner Kanye.
Yeah.
A little bit, though.
Yeah.
Small dose.
I think it's rooted in the self-belief part that we talked about, for sure. Yeah, that might be the theme of the episode, is the self-belief. So, but man, Jay, I gotta say, dude, thanks for coming back on. Thanks for doing this again. That's all I have for you today, but I'm definitely excited for, the new EP. Congratulations again. And I'm excited to see, what you do moving forward. And I know we'll do this again real soon as well. So thanks, man.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening, everyone. That was episode 208. We'll be back this time next week. As always, hit the support button on your podcast streaming platform if you'd like to send any funds, and feel free to leave us that 5-star rating if you enjoyed today's episode. So we'll see you then. Thanks, everyone.